Hello and welcome to the CSN3M Mindset Monday podcast. I am Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on the 3 M's, mindsets, myth busting, and mentoring, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. This podcast is brought to you by the OptiLife Academy, Case Specific Nutrition's very own online do-it-yourself wellness course that allows you to work with your own health and habits from anywhere with an internet connection. Be sure to check out our free trial at optilifeacademy.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. You can use code Andrew at checkout for 10% off. Today's episode is another special guest episode. With me today, I have our rock star dietitian who runs the South Hills office here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Laine Greenawalt. Laine, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And so for those of you who don't know, like I said, Laine is our lead dietitian at our South Hills office. She is a CSSD like I am, which we can dig into a little bit more. Laine's been working with me now for quite a few years. She's been my right hand and my rock star. She was the first dietitian that really counseled extremely similarly to me and allowed me to sort of scale the case-specific brand and dig into the southern part of Pittsburgh, which for those of you that are not from around here, the South Hills is basically its own city. And so you need to have someone that lives there and speaks the language and knows the streets if you're going to go forward. So I'm going to start by letting Laine kind of introduce herself and give a short background about her path through nutrition and sort of her professional status. So go ahead, you take it off.
Yeah, perfect. So I didn't take the traditional path into dietetics. I actually come from the world of sports performance and physiology.
Ooh.
My bachelor's degree is in exercise physiology from Ohio University, where I also played collegiate field hockey. And I always had an interest in how the human body worked and how we can use exercise and food to improve performance. And while I was there, I actually picked up a minor in nutrition, so I knew it was interesting, but I didn't think I wanted to do it full time. And then when I graduated, I was working and I was coaching a lot of high school athletes, and they were coming in and they had the craziest stories. Like, coach told me I need to gain weight, so I'm drinking a gallon of milk a day, or I'm eating, 6 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, or I'm not eating between 8 and 4. And I was just like, this doesn't seem right. There seems to be a lot of misinformation out there. So that was actually the population that inspired me to go back and get my master's and ultimately get my RD. And my internship took me here to Pittsburgh, where I met Andrew, and the rest is history.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when Laine and I met, it was about, what is it? Are we talking 3.5 years ago now? Probably? Three and a half. And so she did a rotation through my company as a specialty rotation. And what was funny is that year, I think I had about 50 interns. And most of them would just, sit there and kind of listen in as I, spoke with clients. And Laine was the only one that actually, during the consultations, very easily made herself a part of it. She would chip in and, say oh, check out this recipe, or if you try doing this with this. She wasn't afraid to speak. She wasn't afraid to contribute. And as all of you know, I'm a pretty fast-talking, million miles an hour person, and that was just the type of person I needed. So we stayed in touch when she finished her internship and when she became a dietitian, and then we started doing a little bit of work together. And then about 8 months to a year after that, she decided to jump ship from her full-time job and call Case Specific Nutrition home. And we've been having a blast together ever since. And most recently, she officially passed her CSSD, which I said earlier, and that is the credential I also carry. It's a certified specialist in sports dietetics. That is really our sports background melded in with what I think is probably both of our most common population, which is using diet and exercise for the management and prevention of chronic disease and chronic illness. And that's what we do a lot of times. That's why when we work with clients, we're obviously discussing exercise and movement and all the life habits. And so that credential, you passed that, about a month or so ago?
3 weeks.
3 weeks ago. And she did exactly what I did, which was she postponed it because it's a test and we don't have the time. And then you take it and you go, oh yeah, I do this for a living. And it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So on to the stuff that's most important. The reason, like with all of the team-based podcasts we're going to be doing, the real reason I brought Laine here is so that you guys would get a break from me and get to hear some other interesting perspectives or mindsets. I will note that our team has a team book club. Our group of dietitians And that's maybe something we should start posting so that other people know what CSN's reading. I know Laine at her office.
Yeah, I put up a bulletin board.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Exactly. So maybe we need to start posting that on social media. But this most recent book that we are currently reading is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And Laine was the one that loved it and recommended it and is really, I think it sounds like really becoming a student of it. So I wanted to, because this is a Mindset Monday after all, give Laine a chance to give us a mindset or a thought or a soundbite from the book that she's been interested in and utilizing in her practice. So take it away. Talk to us about mindset.
Yeah, so like Andrew said, we're reading the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. And the premise of the book is really about the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And so growth mindset is one where we're constantly growing, learning, improving, whereas a fixed mindset, just like it sounds, keeps you fixed where you are. The big thing with it is bringing intention and awareness to that mindset and where you're at.
My favorite words, by the way.
Well, intention and awareness.
I always say that health is continuous attention and awareness, and that's where it starts. So
yeah.
I love it.
And that applies, so intention and awareness can apply to the food that you're eating, it can apply to your exercise routine, and I think something that tends to go to the wayside a lot of the time is mental health. Yeah. And so, being aware and bringing attention to your mindset and your mental health and where you're at is really important because your mindset affects your perception of your reality, right? Yeah. So if you have a fixed mindset, you tend to fall into woe is me, there's no point, why bother, why try, versus a growth mindset where we're looking for opportunities to improve or grow or continue to learn. And so that's the premise of the book, and she uses a ton of great examples and anecdotes and does a much better job explaining it than me, obviously. But it's a really wonderful book, and I highly, highly recommend it. I think that, to give a relevant example.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that would help everybody if we kind of think through the growth versus the fixed mindset, because you can already see where, in previous podcasts, I've said that the word fail stands for the first attempt in learning. And that's the concept of a growth mindset, right? You can either be fixed and you can say, like you said, woe is me, or spend time focusing on why you can't make changes. Sure. Or you can have a growth mindset, which is to acknowledge that sometimes things are hard, sometimes there's curveballs, but we have the opportunity to do our best with it. And our best is okay, and it's also a chance to learn. But yeah, why don't you give an example of something either relevant today or something you've interacted with a client about recently?
Sure. So just to build on what you said, I have a saying, there's no failure, only feedback.
I love it. See, all these are little mantras. Get sticky notes, write these down. Yeah. These are good things to tell yourself so that we can find that positivity and reassurance in self.
But to give a real world example, I know, wherever you are in the United States, you're probably dealing with this COVID-19 situation at the moment. A lot of us are stuck at home, social distancing, trying to prevent the spread of the virus. And so with all of this, there's been a lot of panic, fear, people feeling out of their normal routines, feeling stuck maybe. And I really just would encourage all of you to use this as an opportunity for growth rather than staying fixed. So rather than feeding into the fear, feeding into the, I guess I'm just going to sit at home and watch movies or, waste time, right? Because I can't be doing what I really want to be doing. How can we use this time in a growth way? Can we learn a new skill? Is there a hobby that you've been meaning to pick up that you just haven't had the chance?
On the bucket list, right?
Yeah. Is there a relationship that you want to work on? Whether, maybe you can't be with them in person, but, can you reach out on the phone? Is there a new recipe you want to try?
With the groceries that you can get at the grocery store.
Right. Maybe Amazon delivers to where you live.
Or you can use Instacart. I've been recommending Instacart.
Okay, they're still up and running?
They're up and running.
Oh,
and
good.
They have, multiple grocery stores, and they'll deliver, so you can kind of you can sort of parse it out and get something from Costco, something from Aldi, and be good to go.
Yeah, I used that the other week when I got back from vacation. Actually, It was lovely. I just did it on the way home, and they were waiting for me when I got there. But yeah, so try a new recipe, try a new exercise video or type of exercise. There's tons of things on the internet that you can use.
And right now, and that's such a perfect example, right? I've been hearing so many people that, obviously gyms closed this week here in Pittsburgh, and everyone's like, I don't know how to work out, or I don't know what to do. And I always talk to people about the realization that exercise isn't a place, it's a meeting, right? It's a thing. It's a feeling.
Yeah.
And we can move our body in a lot of different ways. So if you're someone that usually is lifting weights and you can't do that, but you can take a walk with the family when it's now light till 7:30 and we're starting to get some warmer weather.
Yeah, it was actually 55 degrees today.
Yeah, that becomes a new opportunity to move and then also to be with the family. And being outside in the open air keeps us from getting a little stir crazy. That's an example of how we can take something that feels like we're stuck and all of a sudden it opens our mind to other potential opportunities.
Yeah, not to mention getting outside and getting some vitamin D is good for your immune system. So.
Absolutely, that's a good little boost. That doesn't hurt us right now.
Yeah.
I love that. Any other thoughts on it? Or is that obviously we have, this overarching case-specific nutrition ideal, right? Which is all of us are trying to help people find their definition of health, find their path, and support them in walking it. And so, we can see where a fixed mindset is something that's going to hold us back no matter our goals, right? Whether our goals are performance as athletes, whether our goals are we have an eating disorder and we're never going to be able to get better, right? Or whether it's someone that has a bad knee and is struggling to move and knows that if they lost a little bit of weight, they would be able to move a little better, the knee wouldn't be as bad, but it becomes this, this vicious circle, right?
Yeah, that snowball.
And the snowball effect. And I think I love that you brought up the COVID-19 because that's such a relevant one right now. And we both are doing virtual consults and speaking with clients. And what we've been doing a lot with people is we've been doing sort of these shorter term brainstorms of like, I know you were talking about the one client you had that has really complex issues. And it's like you guys were doing all this really crazy stuff that with the grocery store the way it is might not be feasible. But that sets us up to think, I can't work on this big goal. Well, what can we do right now, right?
Yeah.
What can we break things down into? I had a great conversation today with a client where, schedule changed, working from home, and she was kind of like, well, I don't really know my schedule anymore. And I have a feeling a lot of people are feeling that way. And so I'm happy that we're talking about this because I really wanted to take some time to sort of brainstorm this, and please feel free to chime in. One of the things I've been doing with people is I've been trying to do a short-term brainstorm of what we'll call like a COVID-19 protocol, right? Which is like, what's your schedule? And we can all break down our weekly schedule into a couple key segments, right? We all have the personal time we need, which is usually our sleep and our time to move our body, whether that's to stretch or walk with our kids or exercise in some formal way. We have the time that's needed for our meals. And then from a work perspective, because most people or a lot of people are working remotely, we have what we'll call our outreach time, which is interacting with others. And then we have what we'll call our vital functions, which are the things that actually make progress. And in a time right now when we feel like we can't make progress, right? We feel kind of stalled. There are still things that we can focus in on and really accomplish. And so I worked with one of my clients today to talk through the brainstorm of wake up, morning stretch or workout, and then that leads to a breakfast, right, which is like a nice post-workout scenario while doing the initial outreach of the day, which sets a bunch of projects in motion, and then blocking out 2 hours right after that to turn off the phone, to turn off everything and focus on whatever their vital function is, right, whatever they're working on.
Yeah, I love that concept of time blocking, which is something you hear a lot about for entrepreneurs and high performers. And
thank you. No.
you especially, Andrew. But to block and not only block out the time, but protect it and recognize its function and importance. And I think that, I don't know about others, but for me personally, it helps me to actually put it on my calendar or my planner or wherever you keep your schedule. Because if I look at my calendar and I see open space, I think, lovely free time.
Yep. Downtime, and then we get sleepy, we take a nap,
right?
We get demotivated,
you get distracted. It's your flow is broken up. But if you put on your calendar that this isn't just 2 hours of free time, this is 2 hours where I am getting a job done. It makes it a lot easier to stay on task.
And it's neat because what you can see and what Laine just said so well is right now a lot of people are looking at a day, an open day, and a to-do list of things. And that to-do list is I need to eat at some point, I need to sleep some, I need to spend some time with my family, I need to stay up to date with the news, I need to do some work, I'd like to exercise. Well, that's a giant to-do list that's going to immediately overwhelm and lead you to do nothing, right? But the moment we start blocking out time, and it was funny because during the call, I was working on this with somebody, and it became this thought process of, well, how does the food fit in? Well, by the time we block out when we're moving, block out our vital function time, and block out an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening for outreach, we can already see where meals fall right in place. And then we can already see where there is open time to then block for other stuff. And it's not that we have to live this to the minute, but it's this idea of once you establish the path, it's much easier to walk it. It gives you a sense of confidence, and it also gives you some productivity for the time coming.
Yeah. It's just, it takes something that's kind of ambiguous and nebulous and, hangs over your head as this large cloud, right, daunting, and it breaks it out into smaller bites, and it makes it much more feasible and easy, mentally easier to tackle. How do you eat an elephant?
Yep, that's well said. I love it. So if anybody takes anything away from this conversation with her and I today, I think we can see where, one, as a big picture, right, anybody that's working with case-specific nutrition is working on a growth mindset, right? Bettering themselves in a positive way. We don't live in a world of guilt, shame, deprivation. We live in a world of, hey, let's try and make life more positive, and what are the habits that we can utilize to include that? But right now is a good example of when people fall into a fixed mindset, because the next 2 weeks there's big question marks. The time after that there's even bigger question marks, and that makes us feel like we're stuck in purgatory. We're stuck waiting for something. But what I would love to challenge everybody to do, and what Laine and I have both been challenging our clientele to do in our sessions, is think of the next 2 weeks and 4 weeks as an opportunity to improve in something, like Laine said before, whether it's a hobby, whatever it is. Identify something that you would love to be able to, a month from now, look back on and go, wow, I used that time really well to do this or to accomplish this, right? If you're in a less stressful work environment and you're getting better sleep, what can we use to how can we use those benefits to our advantage, right? How can we find short-term growth during a time that otherwise feels fixed? And it comes from identifying our ambitions and then building out a tentative schedule that allows us to see over the next month what we can improve. And I would add that one of the things we are doing with our clients is a lot of times we're actually speaking to them a little more frequently over the next month or so, once a week or once every 2 weeks, to sort of think through short-term goals of like, okay, what can we be doing? What do you guys have in the freezer left? What are some creative recipes, right? How can we help you stay in tune? What are some creative workout access points? This is an opportunity for all of us to utilize time as time for self and time for improvement. And one thing we know, the reason why we have this growth mindset is when we are growing, when we are improving, we are our best self, which means we're better able to help each other.
Yep, exactly.
So I hope this podcast was a fascinating episode. I promise you Laine will be back. Like I said, I wanted to bring her in today to talk a little bit about mindset and introduce her because she is one of the other talkative and well-informed rock stars on the case-specific nutrition team. Thanks as always for listening. Please subscribe to our channel, share on your favorite social media, and tag a friend or loved one. Don't forget to do your part and hashtag spread the health. In a month where things are spreading, we can spread health as a group. For more case-specific content, please follow us on all social media at Case-Specific Nutrition, and check out our website, casespecificnutrition.com. We'll be back next week with another CSN3M Mindset Monday. We will talk to you then.